What up, everyone? So, here's the video I was talking about doing, the whole controversy, the whole Pops versus Beanie Babies, and there's things I want to talk about and probably set the record straight on, because there's things I think a lot of people are confused about. And this was supposed to be part of the last video, the collecting advice, kind of a series I'm doing, helpful tips and things to help you in your collection, and that'll include me doing videos on custom framing and things like that. Just nice ways to like cut corners, to save money here and there, in ways to build your collection without spending an ass load of money. So I planned on doing this part of that video, but the video just became way too long. There's too much information, and it's kind of an interesting topic, so I thought I'd make it a short, separate video. But it should have been part of step 9, and what step 9 was, or the advice tip 9, was to just follow the trends, to try to predict patterns. And the best way to put this in this situation is look to the past to predict the future, because it's always going to help out. And a lot of the things I talked about for step 9 was all short game stuff. It was all watching individual items, looking for the patterns and the flows, the right time to buy, and things like that. But this is more long-term stuff. This is more trying to collect things for a long term and sit on them your whole life versus not. Because a lot of things, the longer you sit on them, the more they'll be worth. The rate of growth is going to change depending on what the item is. But typically, the longer you sit on something, the more it's going to be worth. But that's not always the case. And a perfect example is Beanie Babies and a lot of things that were fads. They became extremely popular out of nowhere, and then one day, the bubble pops, and then they become worthless. And nobody wants them. And to this day, no one really wants them at all. And people are saying the same thing is going to happen with Pop figures. The same thing is going to happen with Funko. So many people have said that. They're predicting it. It's going to happen. And what I say to that is no. People are saying it's exactly the same. I'm saying no, it's not. It's not the same, actually. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, how it's not the same. There are very similar situations. There's a lot of similarities to that situation, and I understand why people are saying that, but I do not think it's going to be the same way, and I'll talk about some steps of that. And that doesn't mean I'm absolutely right. It could absolutely go that way, but from my educated guesses, I don't think so. And it's just like Beanie Babies, just like Pog figures, and just like any fad that was around. A lot of things in the 90s, essentially, were around for a very short amount of time and then kind of disappeared. Some of them do kind of make a comeback. And things like Pokemon cards, they kind of disappeared for a while, and then they are making kind of a comeback because Pokemon never went anywhere. So to try to find those original cards is very hard to do. There's not a lot of people seeking them out, but if you wanted to, you'd have to pay a pretty premium price for that. And the reason is that so many people just toss them out. So now they're becoming rare because people just threw them in the garbage. And the whole thing about this bubble that it has, and it's a figurative bubble, that's the popularity bubble, and once it pops, everything falls to pieces. And people are saying it's going to happen with Funko. And the funny thing is, it already has happened with Funko. Their bubble has already popped, and it's on the decline. And a lot of people are seeing this. You're seeing the Pop figures drop in price, and you're seeing this mass flood of things. They've completely oversaturated the market. Anytime you go into Hot Topic, or FYE, or Target, or anywhere like that, you're just going to see racks and racks of clearance Pop figures. Now, people are seeing this and saying, well, these are just all going to end up in landfills. And yeah, you know, some of them will, but not all of them. I don't think the series is going to completely die off. Funko is very smart in what they do. They're very business savvy, and they've been playing the market very well. So it's getting, the height of their popularity, I don't know the exact dates, but if I had to guess, it was sometime in 2015. Probably right around Comic-Con 2015 was the height of their popularity. There was this huge surge of people wanting them, and the supply just couldn't meet the demand. They kept making them, and people just wanted more and more. So they flooded the market, and now they did it too much. And people, all these collectors are realizing they've run out of space. They can't collect anymore, and they have to start selling their collection. They have a bunch of common figures, and nobody wants to buy them because everyone else is selling their collection too. So it's creating this kind of dilemma here, and people are seeing this market kind of crash. But if you've been watching things, there's still figures out there that are still going up in price. Now, Funko, I don't think is ever going to go the way of the Beanie Baby because for a few reasons. And the number one reason is probably licensing. So Ty was the company that did Beanie Babies, and the problem they had was they didn't really do licensing back then. They did it later on after it was too late, but it was a fad because there was nothing to hold onto there. It was all plush little beanbag things that were just kind of animals that they didn't have a time frame. There was nothing to attach them onto. They were just kind of there, and everyone liked them. And then when they became uncool and people didn't like them, there was nothing to attach them to, so it just kind of fell by the wayside. And people could not give those away. You couldn't sell them if you wanted to. Nobody was buying them. People were just giving them away and giving them away. And who knows? They might make a small resurgence later on, and the original ones might be worth some money, but who wants to go back and collect them? Because there's nothing to reinvent them. There's nothing to bring them back into the market. Whereas pop figures, they have licensed deals, and they're all attached to specific things, whether it be comic books, or a comic book character, or a specific movie, or a specific TV show, or a specific franchise. They're all very clearly dated and marked. So some of them, yeah, they'll just get thrown in the garbage because it wasn't a popular series, or it wasn't a popular movie, or they weren't exclusive, or they made too much of them. But some of them, I think, are just going to live on. For example, the Dragon Ball figures, I don't know if anyone's tried to collect those pop figures, but it's really hard to collect the whole series, and there's not that many of them. And that's because they've made specific characters exclusive to certain things. And I don't think those are just going to get thrown in the garbage ever, because Dragon Ball has been around so long, and they're just now making their resurgence into pop culture. So I don't think it's ever just going to go away. I think people are always going to look back and want to collect the originals, and they'll probably just keep re-releasing those series. They get better and better at making figures, so they're just going to make a new series and keep going. And that's what's going to keep them alive. True that they may not be worth as much as they were in that 2015 era. The prices have come down, and they will keep going down, but they will level off eventually. Now, Funko's never going to go out of business because they keep doing licensing. And whether you're paying $10 for a pop or $100 for an exclusive one, it doesn't matter. The prices will drop, but it'll never disappear altogether, because every day there's new TV shows coming out. Every day there's new movies coming out, and they just make figures for that movie. At this point, the pop figure and Funko products is almost just like action figures. If you think about it that way, there are some action figures that are very sought after, that are very expensive, that are very exclusive. And there's some action figures that are just shit. It's all the same thing. They're all action figures. Some companies make them, and the movie may not do well, or the show didn't do well, so they don't sell well. No one buys them, they get thrown in the garbage. Same with pop figures. And just like with action figures, there's some movies that did very well, like Marvel and DC stuff. Some of those older action figures are still very sought after, depending on where they're from. Same thing with pop figures. And an example is the Mego figures. Anyone seen the original dolls, like the original Spider-Man DC action figures? They were called Mego, and they were in cardboard boxes. Those are highly collectible. That series has been gone for decades. That company has, I think, got bought out by someone else. I'm not sure what the story was. And they've tried to reinvent it over the years, but those are very, very collectible, those original ones. The remakes are crap, but the original ones are still collectible, and that's been done for so long. And I think it's going to be the same thing with pop figures. They'll keep making series, and they'll keep making series. No one's ever going to be able to collect them all. It's impossible. And they'll keep selling them at $10 a piece, and that's what it's just going to be indefinitely. And the original ones, like for the first few years that they were out, those will probably be still collectible. Everything else in between, yeah, those will probably just kind of get tossed out and won't have much value ever. And I think it's the case with a lot of video game pops. I don't think those are going to last very long. Like, if you keep those, I don't think those are going to increase in value over time, because video games are constantly getting redone and reinvented, whereas characters, people are always going to like the original comic characters. So originals of things are always going to hold their value, and then everything in between is just going to be kind of a what if. So that's where I see it being different than things like Beanie Babies, because there was no in between. It was all just stuff they put out. And eventually Ty did make licensing deals, but it was after the bubble had popped. It was after things had kind of already gotten flushed out. They started making licensing, but it was too late. Funko has done that from the start, so they've done a good job at it. And it's not just pop figures. I'm speaking in terms of all Funko products, that yeah, the pop has already reached its peak, and it's already on the decline, and it'll kind of steadily level out over the next few years. But it's going to be the same with all Funko products. But I don't think they're just going to disappear, because me personally, looking at like things like the mystery minis, like the horror mystery minis, I think those are fantastic. I don't see me ever not liking those. I don't see me coming to a day where it's like, oh, these just aren't cool anymore and no one wants them, I'm just going to throw them out. I don't see that ever happening. Most of the other mystery minis are total garbage, but those ones are good. Same with pop figures. There are some that are legitimately good figures. They're well sculpted, they're well painted, they're a good representation of that character. I think those are going to be good indefinitely, and it's going to be the original. Whereas the ones that have like the X-Men mystery minis, those are going to be shit. Those are going to be in the garbage. No one's going to want those later on. And a lot of other mystery minis with terrible, or pops with terrible paint jobs and terrible sculpt jobs, nobody's going to want them later on. So there are similarities and there are differences, and that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. So, and I guess the advice here is that a lot of people, it's the decision of whether to sit on things or whether not to. And I gave the example of Pokemon cards earlier, and I honestly kept mine. I kept my Pokemon cards and like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I kept most of them, and they died off really quickly. That bubble popped, and they kind of died off. And Pokemon cards, they kept making them, but they weren't selling. You couldn't sell the cards anywhere. Nobody wanted to buy them, so most people threw them out. And like I said, if you have that original base set of Pokemon cards, it goes for a pretty decent amount now. And even sealed packages of the original base set go for a really decent amount, and people still try to go back and collect them, because the people that were kids when that came out are adults now, and they want that whole nostalgia thing. They don't want to collect the new series, they want to collect the original. So even like I've told you in that collection video, how things start high, go down, level off for a long time, and then eventually will come up in price. And I think that's the case for pop figures too. They started out high, they went down, they're leveling off, and the really, really old ones are still going to climb up in value. They're still going to be the original. I have the original Batman pop, the metallic Batman, which is thought of as like one of the rarest pops ever, because it's the original from 2010, and that price has been coming down a little bit, and I think it's going to continue, and then it'll kind of level off where it'll be really cheap, and then eventually I think it's going to go back up in price. That's just what I think is going to happen. It's going to go back up because it's the original. There's never going to be another original Batman pop. And you guys know there are thousands of Batman pops out there, just thousands and thousands. So those are just going to get lost in translation over time. There's too many to keep track of, but there's always going to be one original. And just like I said with a lot of the Homer Simpson one I have, it's worth $100 now, the Mickey Mouse one and things like that. They always have so many franchises that Funko's doing, they haven't even had time to loop back through. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I know people are in a panic right now to get rid of their pop figures and just sell them off, but you guys, I would tell you, just don't worry about it. Just sit on them for a while, and I think everything's fine. If you have pops that are overly common, that weren't exclusive, that weren't of a popular series, yeah, they might not ever increase in value. But if you do have things that were valuable at some point and are valuable now, I don't think they're just going to be garbage. I don't think it's going to go the way of the Beanie Baby, where people are just tossing them out and don't give a shit about them. I think that's going to happen to a lot of them because, like I said, the market's too oversaturated. But I think the original ones are still going to be worth something, and I think collectors have learned over time. And whether if something they printed too much of it, doesn't matter when it happened. A lot of people in the 90s were doing collections of like basketball and baseball cards that to this day are still worth crap. But you know, eventually they probably will come up in price too. It'll just be a longer time. The more product they put out, the higher run they do of a product, the longer that time period is of it being worthless. Eventually that'll come up too. When? Who knows? Probably a very long time. Probably another 50 years into the future, they might eventually come up. I don't think it's going to be the same with pop figures. I think it's going to be one of those timeless things. I think Funko is just going to be indefinite in my opinion. I don't think they're going to go out of business. I don't think they're just going to crash. I think they're going to keep rolling with the punches. They're going to keep creating stuff. And series that don't do well, they'll do less of, like the reaction figures. And then maybe they'll just do more high-end stuff. They'll keep making the pops more detailed, as they have over the past couple of years. They're getting more and more detailed and better sculpts. And I think they're just going to keep evolving and keep going with it. Yeah, a lot of stuff is going to be crap, and some stuff may never come back, but it doesn't mean everything will. And with Beanie Babies, it's like everything turned to crap. It doesn't matter if you had the rarest one or not. No one cared. Nobody wanted to buy it. People that were selling them in stores had to practically give them away on clearance. And current pop figures, the same thing's going to happen. But those original ones, I think, are still going to be timeless. So I'm kind of just like spitballing here. I didn't really plan this video out very well, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I would tell you guys, don't worry about it. If you don't have to be in a huge rush to sell your stuff. If you want to, go for it. If you just don't like them anymore, yeah, get rid of them. Who cares? But if you're worried about them being worthless, I don't think that will happen. It's again, you got to use your best judgment. Is it a popular character? What's it from? Is that going to make some kind of resurgence? Is that a good movie that's going to be timeless? Or was it a crap movie? There's so many factors to worry about, and I can help you guys out the best I can if you want to throw something in the comments, but I would just say don't worry about it. Don't trip over it. And like I was saying, I didn't think this video out very well, so if you guys have questions, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to help you out and to tell you, like, yeah, get rid of it, or keep it, or what it should go for, but don't follow the frenzy. Don't follow everyone else's panic. It's like the Great Depression in the early 1900s. People started pulling money out of their banks, and it caused this panic, and then all of a sudden banks are shutting down, going out of business. Like, guys, don't worry. Just relax. Don't let other people decide for you. If you like your collection and you like the shit you have, then keep it. I promise you, you'll be able to sell it at a later date. When, it's hard to say. But don't worry about it. Don't stress. Like I've gave you the rules before, be prepared to keep your collection for a while. Get some shelves like I showed you, and I'll show you other cool tips on how to frame and how to do other stuff. Just chill out. Chill out, hang on to it. Don't worry about these rumors of people saying it's like Beanie Babies. It's not like Beanie Babies. It's not the same thing. And I wish I had more thought out things to say, but it's not like that. It's completely different. There are similarities, there are similar trends, but it's not going to go the exact same way. So don't stress, hang on to them. So for now, that's all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to keep this video fairly short, and I'll probably continue this discussion maybe in a later video, but I want to keep them a little bit shorter. And like I said, I'll do the framing video, I'll do the magnets video, maybe more on shelvings. You guys tell me. Let me know what you guys want to see, what you want to hear, and I'm more than happy to make a video about it or talk about it in the discussion or comments. For now, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought, and weigh in with your opinions. I'd love to hear what you guys think. In the meantime, I'll see you guys on the next unboxing video and more reviews to come. Thank you for watching. Love y'all. Peace.